Take you back to this story. Johannesburg multi-party government is electing a council speaker today. It follows a tense few weeks where Chair of Chairs Colleen Makhubele was accused of bringing the city into disrepute. Now, you remember last month, Speaker Vasco da Gama was ousted in a motion of no confidence. Let's go to our reporter Pule Letshwiti-Jones, who's watching developments at the council sitting. Pule, exactly how far are we in terms of, the election of the different people that they want to take up stage?
Well, a very good afternoon, Masiko, and we're at a point right now where nominations were currently being heard. We do know that the DA has fielded their own preferred candidate, Alex Christians, who, by the way, also has allegations linked to his name of city property hijackings. But we also do understand that Colleen Makhubele, Chair of Chairs, has also been nominated as well. But at the center of this, things are not looking quite good for the multi-party coalition. We do understand that there's been a breakdown in talks between the DA, who initially rejected a plan which would have seen the IFP field in their preferred candidate as the speaker. But now we do understand that the PA is at the center of holding their cards and they don't want to listen to the DA anymore. So it's quite interesting to see what's developing here at the City Council session. I'll be speaking to Bongani Baloyi, the chairperson of ActionSA as well. Thank you very much for joining us, Bongani. So things are not looking quite good as you initially had planned. Just take us into confidence. What's the latest?
Look, where we find ourselves for us is not a surprise. It is what we tried to raise with the multi-party leaders to persuade them strongly when we made the view or proposal rather that we believe IFP should be allocated the speaker of the position of speaker and the vacant position, because that will ensure that there's inclusivity and will deepen participation of other parties who have made a meaningful contribution to the stability of this coalition. But the Democratic saw it fit that it's their position. They refused and declined that offer. And majority of the members of the parties actually agreed to the offer. And now we are at the point where we are here, where there's no commitment from a party such as PA whether it will support the multi-party coalition. And I actually believe I understand their anger, because on the eve of such a conversation last night, we were all sent an opinion piece that was written by the Democratic Alliance provincial leader, Ntate Msimang, describing us who had a view in the multi-party as rent seekers, as minnows, as people who are pursuing greed and necessarily not pursuing advancing our society, but pursuing greed. So our very valuable input was reduced in a very pedestrian manner, which is really unbecoming of a member of the coalition and what they have led us to. So just to put it to you very frankly, the position we find ourselves in now, where there's a high likelihood or possibility of a Colleen Makhubele being elected as Speaker of Council, that will be a consequence of a DA's behavior.
And I'll just come back to you. Maybe let me just introduce Mr. Mlungisi Babas from the IFP. You were expected to field in a preferred candidate to be the Speaker. That are not going fruitfully. So are you quite disappointed that the talks are not going your way now?
Well, I wouldn't say we are disappointed. Indicated that the intention was to stabilize the coalition and the government in Johannesburg. So when that proposal was brought forward to the IFP, IFP accepted that on the basis that they want to assist to stabilize the government in Johannesburg. Then DA does not support that. Hence, the IFP then went back, to remain, with what was allocated to them, and also to support the candidate of the DA. Because in a way we still have to honor the agreement that we have with the DA, but the reality is that we might see the collapse of Johannesburg the government today because of what DA could not agree to when other coalition members in fact had tabled that proposal for this. So the IFP, it took us time in our deliberation to even agree to that proposal, because we had also to weigh in other options to see how it's going to work. But because it was in the interest of the coalition, it was in the interest of bringing stability in Johannesburg, that's why the leadership of the IFP then said, if the coalition in fact put forward the name from the IFP, then the IFP is going to accept that. But the DA does not accept that. Then that's why then we are going to continue to support the candidate that they've put forward.
I mean, that's very unfortunate that Mr. Msimanga would write such an opinion that he believes that you didn't honor the multi-party agreement which was signed in front of the public. However, we now see the DA fielding a candidate, Mr. Alex Christians, who, by the way, we do understand there were allegations against him in relation to a city property hijacking as well. Do you see this as a desperate attempt now that the DA feels as though they have what one would call ruined and disappointed you guys when having to come to the coalition agreement?
Look, I think the DA failed to recognize the significance of the moment we found ourselves in, where the decision essentially was the DA picking a position or stabilizing the multi-party, and they picked the self-serving position. And worst of all, when we exercise a clause in the current signed agreement which says this review, this contract shall be reviewed, which is what we are pushing for. We are described as people who don't honor a contract while exercising a clause within the contract, as rent seekers and as minnows as well. So it's deeply regrettable for the DA, who conduct themselves in a manner that does not seem to suggest to us that they want this coalition. It seems that, as originally planned, that they do not want to govern here. They're governing under duress. So it seems now they've found a way out by ensuring that they really arrogantly treat all members to ensure that they force them out or create circumstances which is fertile for them to walk out.
But Lungisi, just maybe lastly before you go, what now? Are you going to be talking with the PA? Do we know what's the way forward from you guys?
Well, with the IFP, we are going to stick to the mandate that was given to us to honor the agreement that we have with the Democratic Alliance and other parties. So we are going to support their candidate. The engagement with the Patriotic Alliance, I think the DA needs to do that. It's not up to the IFP to go out and engage with the Patriotic Alliance. So if it was our candidate, maybe we would have done that as the IFP. But because it's their candidate, they must do that themselves. So we are not going to go and engage other parties on behalf of the Democratic Alliance. As much as we are part of the coalition, but we represent the IFP here. We do not represent the DA, so they need to go out and reach out to other parties so that they get the maximum support that they need today. But the IFP is going to support the candidate that they have put forth, because that's what we had agreed upon, and we said we are going to honor the agreement that we signed with all the other members of the coalition.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Council sitting that's taking place here in Johannesburg. Myself, those are just some of the views coming from ActionSA and IFP, quite disappointed in the manner in which they believe the Democratic Alliance had conducted itself by not honouring the agreement of having to field the preferred speaker from the IFP. We do now know that they have actually put forward the name Mr. Alex Christians as a preferred candidate, but of course we do understand that other parties have fielded in Colleen Makhubele, who also representing COPE there, and she's accepted nomination. So it will be interesting to see how it goes. This also lies the interest within the move the Patriotic Alliance will be taking, and I can just confirm with you, we understand that just yesterday the Patriotic Alliance had said that they will be forging ahead with the minorities parties who are in position, being the ANC and COPE as well. So the next couple of minutes, Masiko, I tell you, will be interesting to see who they will be fielding forward as the council speaker of Johannesburg.
All right, Pule Letshwiti-Jones at that council sitting in Johannesburg. Let's leave it there for now. It's going to be interesting if Colleen Makhubele does take the position of speaker in the city of Johannesburg, because we all remember what the judgment in the High Court said about her taking it over after Vasco da Gama was ousted. Let's give you a